In episode 4, after the meeting with the Chinese, Wallace needs to go debrief with the Prime Minister. He's going to send Helen home, but he needs to head to the Prime Minister's home and let him know exactly what the Chinese have and what their theory is, which everyone thinks is kind of crazy. After all, it is quite an accusation. Because of this accusation, the Prime Minister calls the CIA station chief and asks his opinion. More like an accusation. Hey, did you happen to kill the Chinese ambassador using a CIA operative named Cole? And the CIA station chief named Mitch kind of laughs at it at first. He thinks it's a joke. One, he can't believe it's being questioned, but two, he also can't believe that he's the one fielding the question. I mean, it's such an accusation. He thinks the Prime Minister should go to the President. Wallace then steps in and asks, what can you tell us about Cole Atwood? But Mitch says, I don't know who that is. And that's something that Wallace doesn't believe at all. The Prime Minister then questions Mitch on whether or not Cole Atwood is a CIA operative, but Mitch isn't willing to discuss that because, as he tells the Prime Minister, your administration's kind of leaky with gossip, and I'm not going to say that right now. The whole conversation, though, takes a turn when they get news of why Stephen hasn't been answering his phone. Because police found Stephen's body. Obviously, the people that are responsible for this are the repair shop. And it's probably about the time that Wallace is learning of Stephen's death that Wallace's wife, Helen, is making a call to the repair shop because she wants to know that her family's safe. But he doesn't answer the question. He makes it known that what happened to Stephen Yark is her fault because she's meddling in their business. They know who she is, they can get to her family. And then they hang up. When Wallace gets home, Helen has to act like she has no idea what happened to Stephen. But Wallace is really broken up about it, and Helen has to be the shoulder to cry on. Just like Helen vowing vengeance for the death of Jason, Wallace vows to get vengeance on whoever did this to Stephen. And then, because grief is nature's most powerful aphrodisiac, he and Helen start having the sex. Unfortunately for him, he's unaware of the fact that Helen has her eyes closed and is thinking about Jason the entire time. But what you'll learn through the fantasy is that Helen was lying this whole time about not telling Jason who she really was. She couldn't bear the thought that he was in love with somebody who didn't actually exist, / wasn't actually her. So she revealed who she actually was, a black dove. As Wallace, though, is having sex with his wife, and his wife is mentally having sex with a dead man, you've got Sam, Eleanor, and Williams going in to Hector Newman's place, guns blazing. And while initially Sam didn't like their odds, they're able to easily get their way through Newman's goon squad. Sam, however, gets a little bit careless. He's going room to room looking for Hector Newman, and he's just kind of barging into these rooms. He's not really going around the corner slowly to make sure anyone's just waiting for him, and Hector Newman was waiting for him. When Sam comes through the door, Hector Newman bashes him in the head, knocking him down. Right away, Hector recognizes him as the guy that shot all his brothers but let him live. He asks him, "Did you come back to kill me?" But Sam says, "I came back for the girl." When Hector tells him that a lot of people are looking for that girl, Sam asks, "Who else?" And Hector chuckles and says, "You don't even know who you're dealing with." He then kicks Sam's gun over to him and says, "I think if you were going to kill me, you would have done it already." And then he heads to leave, but not before telling him, "You never should have came back." Finding Hector Newman is something that Sam does not reveal to either Eleanor or Williams, but they do end up finding Kai Ming passed out. I mean, she's a drug addict. Either way, they grab her body, they put her in the car, and they head to Eleanor's place. Williams, though, is pissed because at no point did Sam ever mention that Kai Ming was the girl that he was looking for. After all, the first night that Williams ran into Sam, the night that Sam killed her original partner, they were also looking for Kai Ming. They were hired anonymously. They were given some number to call if they found her. She just thinks that it would have been nice to be told, "Hey, we're looking for the same girl." Hearing all this, Sam does apologize to Williams for killing her partner, saying, "I probably should have just put a bullet in her shoulder or something." After they get Kai Ming over to Eleanor's, everybody heads home. The next morning, Sam wakes up, and he can't take it anymore. He's got to go visit Michael. He heads over to Michael's apartment. He stands outside awkwardly, trying to figure out exactly how he's going to do this, and then he doesn't have time because Michael is standing behind him wondering what the hell he's doing there. It's extremely awkward for the both of them, but Michael invites him in. Sam, having not really prepped this, is kind of at a loss for words. And Michael tells him off. First thing he does is let him know that he followed the directions. He never told anybody what happened. But because of what happened, he's constantly scared. Not only for himself, but now for his daughter. And Sam, not really sure what to say, just walks out. Very emotional. For Michael, running into Sam on his stoop was quite a surprise. And Helen also had a surprise that morning. She got up because she had to go meet Reed for a meeting, but when she headed downstairs, there was somebody else in the living room. It was Danny. Danny just decided to pop by after hearing what happened with Stephen, knowing how close Stephen and Wallace were. She just wanted to let him know that she was thinking of him. Helen puts on the fakest smile she can and escorts her out the door. And then she heads to go meet with Reed. She called for the meeting because an interested party wants her to get to Cole. She explains to Helen that the Chinese government has video of Kai Ming's boyfriend, Cole Atwood, fleeing the scene of the murder. And Cole Atwood is a CIA spy. This interested party is going to pay a lot of money to Cole if he undermines the Chinese government, defects from America, exposes the spy ring. But, once again, that's a lot of money. But the big thing he'll be preventing is a possible World War III. Now, nobody in their right mind believes that he actually did this. It doesn't make any sense. But the thing is, if the Chinese believe he did it, then this could kick off World War III. So really, by him taking this deal and turning his back on America, he'd be preventing nuclear war. The reason why Reed is coming to Helen is because Helen is really the only one that can get to Cole. He's being held in the embassy, which is extremely difficult to get into. But with Helen, who's married to Wallace, it wouldn't really look that fishy. She knows people in the embassy. And there's one woman in particular who Helen is quote-unquote friendly with that Reed is taking it upon herself to set up a meeting with. Just kind of a little catch-up. This will allow Helen to get into the building where she'll deliver the message to Cole, and then it's up to him whether or not he accepts the offer. After the meeting with Reed, Helen gets word on where Kai Ming is and she heads over to the apartment. Everybody's over there. You got Eleanor, Williams, Sam, and even Lenny stopped by, because after they shot up a place and left 17 bodies, word got out. And what she can't figure out is how out of 17 bodies, one of them was not Hector. So she wants to remind Sam, you need to go get him or I'm going to kill Michael, which is something that gets Helen's ears to perk up. Lenny then leaves, and before Helen can address all of this with Sam, Kai Ming wakes up and she's freaked out. She doesn't know any of these people. She's woken up in a weird apartment. And Helen has to kind of calm her down and let her know, we are your friends. We're here to help. We're here to find the people who murdered your dad. They ask her what she remembers, and she says, we came home from partying and we found my dad. He was already dead. We freaked out because we had a bunch of drugs on us. We didn't really know what to do. I ran to the warehouse where I usually score drugs, started using, and then they realized who I was. I tried to leave, but they wouldn't let me. They just kept asking me questions about Trent, who's this guy that I used to grab drugs from. I think his family had a connection, but I don't really know. They just wouldn't stop asking me about him. Helen then asks about her relationship with Jason, but she says, I never met him. I know he called me a bunch. He said he was Maggie's partner and he wanted me to call him. And that word, partner, surprises the hell out of Helen. She was not expecting Jason to describe anybody as his partner. They then decide to give Kai Ming a little bit of a break. And while the two girls entertain her, Sam and Helen start discussing the situation. Helen filling Sam in on the fact that Reed wants her to get into the embassy and approach Cole Atwood with an offer. In order to do this, she's going to need Sam's help. On the drive over, Helen can't get that word out of her head. Partner. What exactly did it mean? She's thinking the worst. She's thinking that partner is sexual partner. And Sam, being a good friend, says, that has a lot of meanings. It could have been anything. He then tells her about his day, about going to Michael's, about Michael going off on him. And he starts getting emotional just rehashing it. At the moment, these two are kind of an emotional mess, but a little while later they arrive at the U.S. Embassy and they formulate a plan. She's going to head in for a meeting, and Sam, who is outside in the car, is going to call up and ask for the woman that Helen's meeting with, Vanessa. He's going to say that it's an urgent message. He needs to talk to her right away. This is going to free Helen up to walk around, find Cole, deliver the message, and then wait. While Helen heads inside and is meeting with Vanessa, Sam is just kind of chilling out in the car when he gets a phone call from Michael, and he's surprised. He didn't expect to hear from him. And Michael, now being able to calm down, just has some questions about Sam's career. Sam tries to answer these questions, but it's not really the best time because he is on the clock. And when he asks if he can call Michael back, Michael asks, are you working right now? And Sam doesn't really want to say yes because the implication is, well, yeah, I'm killing people. So he kind of fumbles around it a little bit because he needs to get off the phone. He needs to call Vanessa and create this distraction. And he does do that. He's able to do it. He creates a distraction. Helen is able to snag somebody's badge and get to the elevator. The problem is the person's badge that she got didn't have access to the floor she needs to get to. And when the U.S. Marine who was in the elevator notices that she does not match up with the picture, a fight ensues, a fight that Helen wins. But she had to leave the body in the elevator, and of course there's security camera footage. So as soon as she gets off, she calls Reed and says, yeah, we're going to need to find somebody to scrub that. Now on the outside, you've got Sam trying to continue to distract Vanessa. All the while, though, his phone is blowing up with text messages from Michael, so he is getting distracted from creating a distraction. And at that moment, his priority is Michael. So much so that he actually puts Vanessa on hold to be able to call Michael back. He has to make the phone conversation quick, so he just says, look, if you want to ever see me again, just text me yes or no. I'll understand either way, but just send me a message. The good news is, at this point, Helen was able to make it to Cole. She gives him the envelope. She says it's a one-time offer, but before she can question him on anything, alarms start going off in the building because the body was discovered. When Sam hears the alarms, he texts Helen that she's got to get out of there. Helen's able to return to the table before Vanessa does, and it doesn't look suspicious. And because of the alarms, everybody has to file out of the building. So Helen heads right to the car with Sam, and a couple minutes later, here comes Cole. He gets in the car, they drive away, and his main priority is that they hold up their end of the bargain, which Helen says, no, don't worry about it. We're good for it. I just need to know what happened to the ambassador and who's covering it up. He doesn't want to tell her anything because he doesn't trust her. And Helen tells him, we know you didn't kill him, but my friend died. He was in contact with Kai Ming, he knew something, and it got him and 2 other people killed. And that rings a bell for Cole. He says, yeah, Maggie I knew, she was Kai's friend. Philip was some scumbag journalist, and the guy Jason, I don't know how he was wrapped up in all of it. But if the people I think killed the ambassador are after you, then you're already dead. He goes on to explain that he wasn't there as a CIA operative to watch the Chinese ambassador. He was actually there to watch the people who killed the Chinese ambassador. It's a group called the Clarks, and the way he describes it, they're like the Krays mixed with the Freemasons. They took over London without anybody even noticing, and it spread to the States. The reason why I was with Kai Ming was because we traced who she was buying drugs from, and it was Trent. And Trent is a Clark. His mother, Alex Clark, is the head of the London operation. Now, my guess is the Clarks know exactly what happened to the Chinese ambassador because they're the ones that are trying to scrub all the information from Kai Ming's apartment that night. I mean, the Chinese wish that it was me. I mean, think about what they could do with that leverage. A CIA operative killing their ambassador? They then arrive at the address that Reed gave them, and Cole says, I've told you everything. I want guarantees that you're going to hold up your end of the bargain. And Helen says, yeah, don't worry, you're going to get your money. But he says, money? What are you talking about, money? He then shows Helen what was in the envelope that Helen handed over, and it was pictures of his family. He just wants to make sure they're going to be safe. Before they can get into any more questions, headlights pop on. Multiple cars. They're all waiting for Cole. And in one of those cars is Reed, sitting all comfy cozy with Chinese agents. Because of course the Chinese are the ones that hired the Black Doves. With Cole, they can get those defense contracts they want so badly. But Helen isn't about to hand him over. She quickly asks him, can you get me to Alex Clark? I'll do everything to keep your family safe, but can you do that for me? Get me to Alex Clark. And he says, yeah, I'll try. Of course, Sam then gets distracted because he gets a text message from Michael saying yes, he wants to see him. But he quickly needs to snap out of it because Helen tells him to turn the car around and get the hell out of there. And then as for Wallace, he spent the night in the office, cozying up with Danny, who did her best to try to seduce him. She even went so far as to plant seeds of infidelity, telling him, yeah, there's rumors your wife's cheating on you, by the way. But Wallace didn't fall for it. He told Danny that his marriage was his business, and then he headed home.
Thank you so much for checking out this recap. Please consider subscribing to the channel and subscribing to my Patreon. Hit thumbs up if you liked it. Smash that thumbs down button if you thought it sucked. If you left a comment, I don't get back to you. I usually don't check the comments unless they're like a super comment. Also, if you don't see the next video up on the end screen, not to worry, it'll be up in a day or two.